Hi all, welcome to the Sunshine City Show. Max, your host. Remember to click the bell on the right hand side. And thank you for support as members. Today I want to discuss Elon Musk, loose lips, sink ships. And we would have remembered Elon with the Tesla car and launching stuff into space. He did say that when he saw his Tesla car in space, it looks fake, it must be real. And on Joe Rogan's show, they were smoking dope. And as you can see from the picture on the cover there, and he was discussing AI technology, and he said we all lived in a simulation. Well, here we are, we're in a COVID lockdown type scenario, which has been going on for months and months. Cannot fly a plane. Looking at that, we can't fly a plane for the next 2 years. So I'm thinking, what's going on? Can we put together what Elon and put that with what we've got right now? And what happened to Elon? So when he said it looked fake, it must be real, where was he at the time of the launch? He was outside. He was removed from his own building by the people who represent space. Because there is space laws and launching in space. You just can't launch into space. And so I think Trump combated this when he created a company, an army division called Space Force. And that would combat the laws, because once you have your military, then you wouldn't come under the laws of space anymore. You would have your own army up there, and you would be combating the other countries that have their armies up there, if they're all not already there already. And so that was a good idea. And so we have the two philosophies. We have flat Earth versus round Earth. And then we have the Antarctica, and could it be a circumference or could it just be a middle? And there are the secrets of Antarctica. We have the scientists there. I discovered on a meeting with a character saying that he was digging in the snow in an embassy, not in the New Zealand base, and their purpose was to get to the core of the ice, which I never really believed that they'd even be worrying about measuring how old the core of the ice was, that there was something under there that was very important to them. And in the New Zealand documentary, we saw that there was a dry valley. Now, the dry valley is between, obviously, a valley, and there was no life there. As foretold in the Enoch Scrolls, it's a place on Earth with no life. Well, there was no trees, no penguins, no animal life in the dry valley. And so that would go along with the Enoch Scrolls. So when you have a bunch of scientists all in the same area, you think, well, what's this got to do with Elon Musk? Well, he said we live in a simulation. So he's seeing that we can't go to space, is what I'm thinking. There are people that believe that on the far side of the moon, that there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and that people have been tripping back and forth since 1969. The only problem I had with 1969 is they were jumping on a trampoline up and down, and it didn't make sense to me that they were doing that. And they had their feet covered, but it looked like a trampoline to me, because everywhere else that they were walking, they didn't have that bounce effect that they had. And so there was a bit of deception going on there. And when you looked at the shuttles, you could see the deception with the throwing the balls in the air and the ball would disappear, grabbing for things that weren't there. And generally the astronauts were chubby. I'm not being rude, but they were not fit, athletic guys of my age in space, which is okay, but very hard to be. You need to be thin at my age to be able to do what they were doing in space, and it takes a lot of energy for what they're doing. And they never ever seem to be doing anything in space. They touch a few tabs and weren't doing anything, but their arms were disappearing. As I said before, there was a wire attached like a harness to a guy floating by that disappeared. And that's all in the bloopers and everything else. I've tried to put them up on my playlist. So if you see that on my playlist, you might... I've put them on. It's very hard to get the real good videos of it all, putting all the bloopers together. YouTube have got algorithms trying to remove it. They only want you to see space technology. They don't want you to see the other kind of it where deception's occurring. And we also know that the rover is on Devon Island. It's not on Mars. They had the rover going around there, and the pictures of Devon Island were the exact pictures of Mars. You can also see that in my playlist. So there's a deception, right? And when he says we live in a simulation, what does that mean? It means that the earth as we know it is not what he thought we knew it. And in the Bible, Matthew 22 verses 29 says the stars fall down. It didn't say where. And in Revelations 9 verse 1, it says the stars fall down to earth. So all the planets are coming down to earth? Are you kidding me? So if you're a Christian, you should know that the stars are not planets. And it said at one stage that a third of the stars came down when it was mentioning the demons and fallen angels, or they were angels at one stage. So when they became demons, I'm not sure. But the problem is time has no relevance in heaven. It has no relevance. We have time here, so we think they've got it up there. They've got no time up there. So I'm pointing up there because we were taught that heaven's upstairs. We were taught that hell's downstairs. Could still be the case. Read the Enoch Scrolls. It's very specific. Now, what is the Enoch Scrolls? The Enoch Scrolls is a book that was written by Cain, firstborn son of Cain. He wrote one of them, and there was 2 or 3 others. So the book of Enoch, you know who Enoch is. He was the one that talked to the watchers and in the Bible, and that book was included in the Bible. There was the Jews that threw it out of the Bible for the purposes of Jesus, the connection with Jesus. So 400 years after Jesus Christ was born, 400 years after, they removed it. The Catholic Church and the Jews decided to remove it, but it was still in the Ephesian Church, Ethiopian Church was still in that church, the Ethiopian Bible. So they still had the Enoch Scrolls in it. Then when the Dead Sea Scrolls came out, at a very good time because God did say things would be revealed at the right time. So the Dead Sea Scrolls came at the right time, and it had the Enoch Scrolls in there, because the Enoch Scrolls talks more about the future. So that's why Antarctica is very, very important. And, you know, I'm going to get 20, 30 views, so only 20, 30 people are going to learn about it. So that's why I think the Dry Valley is mentioning a burial place as well of fallen angels. And so I'm thinking Dry Valley in Antarctica is a good clue. Then it talks about snow being in this valley, that there's snow very near it. And then it talks, I think this is very early on in the Enoch Scrolls when you read it, chapter 12 or thereabouts. So when you, and it talks about going further out and into the angels, into the 4 corners, and the angels are controlling the weather and that kind of thing. So the Antarctica could be really open up a can of worms. But then we've got all these scientists there. We've got John Kerry visiting there about the same time as the Christchurch earthquakes first started. I don't know if there's a connection between the two. Someone reckoned that there was as soon as he landed in Christchurch. But then there was another thing. The Helen Clark was in the Anglican Church, which fell down flat as an atheist up there in the pulpit. I thought that was a horror when I heard it. And not long after that, the Christchurch earthquake came apart. I just don't know why. It was just very coincidental that that church was gone. And I think your actions as Christians is very important. And if you are entertaining people like that, because they're an important person, then really should they be up at the pulpit, which is the place for your preacher, and place for someone to be preaching the word of God, not someone preaching politics and nonsense and atheism right in your pulpit. And that's my theory on that. But we'll get back to Elon Musk right now. So Elon Musk was a nice guy. I really like him. But I think with being an elite, he has to keep his mouth shut. And he was removed after he said we live in a simulation, the AI technology, and he was smoking dope. They said, well, because you were smoking dope, you've lost directorship of your own company. And maybe the shareholders had that much power over him, or maybe the investors themselves, the people that are investing and giving him loans, that said, well, you have to stand down as a director because you smoking dope. Well, obviously smoking dope and releasing information. So saying we lived in a simulation was upsetting, obviously. And that's possibly what they are thinking. If you're an atheist, that's the conclusion you would come to, that we're living in some sort of simulation. We can't get out of space. The rockets are, they have launched rockets into space, homemade ones, and they hit something and come back down. They hit, and there's no movement, and they come back down. And that was a homemade rocket that went up there. But now I think they have laws to stop that, stop the launching of that, because as I said, they had these space laws. And Antarctica is the same thing. No one's ever flown over it. We had the Erebus crash, where the Erebus plane was a 707 type of craft, was flying there from Christchurch to Antarctica there and back. But it didn't fly over Antarctica. It flew to the Antarctica and returned. But then there was an Erebus crash where they hit a mountain. But as I said before, the wreckage was on a flat surface, the wreckage. And thinking, well, where's the mountain? And they said a volcano, but it's like strange. What volcano in Antarctica? I reckon there's a volcano there. So that's interesting if there's a volcano there. I haven't seen it on any of the documentaries, like visually seen it. Anyway, that's pretty much it, really. You've got Ricky Gervais coming online and saying we're all going to die soon, sort of jokingly, we're going to all be dead soon. I don't know what he was getting at. There seem to be like people are hinting at stuff. And we've got celebrities sitting in ankle bracelets. I've seen recently Tom Hanks went to Greece. I saw a picture of it. Didn't see it on video, just a picture of it. And maybe it was Tom Hanks. I don't know. I mean, he had a big mask on. He had glasses on, black glasses on. Wasn't much of him to see. Possibly. Well, that they're pointing at he's possibly Rockefeller's son. And possibly he is, and maybe he's of significance as a witness. Who knows? But I know the Hollywood themselves are very tight-lipped about everything. And if you do something wrong, you lose directorship of your own company. And Elon showed us that. Elon showed us that there's more going on in Hollywood. There are people that speak out against it. But even them, they're being careful what they say. If they know anything more, they're not letting the cat out of the bag. And would you believe them if they did? You wouldn't. That's part of the problem. And that's why certain things can't be ever said to you, because you believe in what you've been told to believe. You believe the earth is round. It's a theory. The earth is round. And you believe that there are planets in space. You believe that we can fly to the moon. You believe that we can fly to Mars. You believe that mankind is pretty amazing. And that's your theory, and that's good. I'm just giving you an alternative theory for you to think out. Why I'm talking about this Elon Musk thing. I'm being clever here, eh? Anyway, catch ya. Thank you very much for being sub, guys, and remember to ring that bell.